Hello, I'm Nobby Clark. Welcome to my workshop. A few years ago I became aware of a very interesting measuring tool. I thought I'd love to have one of these for my workshop, and that's the planer gauge. I did try at the time to find one of these on eBay, but they seem to be either just not available or it must be a very rare item in the UK. Most of these available are on the American market, some at quite reasonable prices, but things that ordering something from America, you can end up paying about twice as much again in postage and various other costs. So I really sort of gave up on the idea. I saw a very interesting YouTube video a few years ago now by Tom Lipton, who showed one of these tools, and that's it absolutely fascinated me, and all that's piqued my interest really in trying to find one of these. Fairly recently, only within I guess the last couple of months, David Ticehurst, an English machinist now living in Australia, did a video on one of these and explained various uses for it. The planer gauge was really originally produced to set the height on planers and shapers, but it obviously has a lot of other uses as well, as a measuring tool. It works something like an adjustable parallel. You have a little lock lever here, and you slide these two parts which will raise the height of this one, so it's working like an adjustable parallel. And this can be set using a micrometer or a vernier gauge to various heights. It's possible to increase the range, and when this one in its sort of maximum setting will give you a height on this plane here, but sort of around about 5 inches. But if you need to increase this, the one I bought comes with a little extension which screws in here. The extension here is about 2.5 inches tall, so it's giving you about a sort of 7.5 inch range. I didn't find this on eBay. In fact, just sort of surfing around the internet, I found a tool company that advertise various sort of second-hand workshop tools. I assume they buy up workshops that have closed down. Perhaps that's the source of all these tools, and I happened to see this one at a reasonable price, and it was a very reasonable price for postage. It came just these two items. I don't know if this is made by a tool company or not. I've no idea. There's no markings on it anywhere to indicate who made it. It does have the original owner's name on it, Mr. Edwards. In America, these are made by Starrett, Brown and Sharp and Lufkin. So when it's possible, this was made by a tool and die maker many years ago. It's difficult to put a date on it. My guess is probably from the 1940s, 1950s, something like that. So they're the two items I got. It came in a wooden box, not an original box for the item. A bit of investigation, we discovered that this box was one that artist crayons were supplied in, and you can still see the coloured markings here that the crayons made in the box. But nonetheless, it's an ideal thing to store the planer gauge in. Various other uses for it. It could be used to set a height and actually used on a surface plate as a scriber. I made this little device not actually as a scriber, but if that was made with a very sharp edge on here, obviously it would need to be made out of material that could be hardened to preserve a sharp edge. That can be attached to either of these three positions and then adjusted to whatever height required, and then used to scribe onto a piece of material on a surface plate. The reason I made this device is that these can also be used to measure the height of a piece of work. I mean, if you had something that you wanted to measure the height perhaps of this column, this could be adjusted and brought down onto the top of the item and then locked very carefully in place. You could then remove the sort of measuring device and then measure across here with a micrometer or a vernier gauge to give you a very accurate measurement. This sort of device I made myself in my workshop, made the little locking knob and made the little pointer here. I did make an additional height extension for it as well. Some of these apparently are supplied with a range of these extensions in lots of different sizes. This one attaches by the screw thread and has a ground surface here to make accurate measurements off, but a lot of them that I've seen have a range of these extensions, so obviously that could be screwed in and then that added to it to give you additional heights. That one's sort of about an inch long. I mean, the one that came with it isn't an accurate 2.5 inches. In fact, it's a little bit over 2.5 inches. I thought that they probably would be made very accurately to various sizes, but I guess there's no reason to do that, because moving this is a sort of very fluid action, and as you're setting this to a predetermined measurement, it doesn't really matter if this is not accurate, as long as it's ground accurately. That's really the most important thing. When Tom Lipton did his video on his planer gauge, he measured the various angles here, and strangely enough, would have assumed, and I think he did as well, that this angle would have been something like about 30 degrees, but the one he had came out to a very unusual measurement. It was actually 27-degree angle here. I checked this one to see if this was the same, but in fact this has a more logical range of angles. The angle here is actually 25 degrees, 65 and 90, obviously adding up to 180 degrees. To me this seems a little bit more logical. But anyway, this is obviously going to have lots of different uses. A lot of the ones I've seen have a circular locking wheel here, but I think this lever works very well indeed. I haven't seen another one with a lever, but obviously when that's locked, it's not going to interfere with the plane of the gauge here, so if it's being used flat on something, it's not going to get in the way. It could also be used to measure slots in items. This could be put into a slot in a piece of material and accurately measure the slot, and then just take your final measurement with your micrometer or vernier gauge. So the device has a great many uses, and I think I'm going to find some very interesting uses for this in the workshop. As it was really designed as a tool setting device for planers and and shapers. No reason why this couldn't be used. There's another means of setting the tool height on a lathe. If I use this little device on here, I could use that to adjust it and set that to tool heights. Another great use for it. Well, I hope that is of interest. Rather sort of a random item, but I was very, very pleased to get hold of this, and at a very affordable price for me as well. I'm spending $100 or more on buying one of these from America and chancing that it actually ships over here okay. I was very, very pleased to get this. Well, I hope you got something out of this and enjoyed the video. Be very, very grateful if a few more people would subscribe to my channel. This is I think my 12th video now. I've not been doing this for very long, and if you have any comments really about my channel, any sort of useful bits of advice for me, I'm very new to amateur engineering, so any advice you can give me would be more than welcome. Well, anyway, thanks very much for joining me, and I hope to have another video for you very, very soon. Thank you. Bye bye for now.